If you can't record, just let me know, please. And I'll share my screen. Okay, so let's get started. So obviously we're building a weather widget, right? We have the HTML and CSS for you provided. So we'll download that. And that went into downloads, okay. I have one kicking around. So we're just gonna pop these open. All right, so I believe this is it. Nope. Let's do that again. Okay. Pop those open here and pop this open in my browser. Oh. Okay, so we're gonna change this. This is our starting case. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some JavaScript here. Okay, so I'm just going to add a script file and we'll add defer to it and we'll say app.js. Okay, I'm going to control click on this, create that file, easy peasy. Okay, and then I'm going to just take a quick look. There are a variety of things that I can do here. To start, obviously, I need to connect to that weather API. I gave you the two endpoints that you would need, the current weather data and the 5-day forecast. So if we go over to, to open weather map, you'll create your account, you'll sign in, you'll get your key, okay? I'm signed in now, apparently. The website is not the greatest, but there's some way better weather APIs. However, they cost money, or they require that you have your own weather station and you also contribute some of the data. So there's some groups where they pull in data from weather stations and you can have access to that data as long as you have your own weather station as well. I don't know what a weather station means, but I think it's just a little contraption in your backyard. So we're going to be using the current weather data as well as the 5-day 3-hour forecast. And I chose these because I took a quick look here and they're available for both free and paid subscriptions. Okay. You can also do make one API call, get the current forecast and historical weather data. So that is lots, but I think that's a little bit too much. So we're going to go with the current weather data first. We're going to start here. I think this is a reasonable place to start. I need to get my API key actually, which I believe is under here. Yeah, so we're going to start here and just copy that over. Const API key. That's strings. Okay. And then I believe we need to get our current location too. Actually, that's a pretty good place to start. So let's go navigator.geolocation. Oh, in addition to this, I should probably also be doing my Git stuff. We're going to git init this directory, okay, and do a quick git add. I'm not going to git add everything. I'm going to git add what I should have added in the first place, which is just my index and just my style. Okay, I've already started doing work, so I'm going to do a commit separately. So I'm just going to add these two files separately. So it's not git add dot, it's git add these files, okay? Style. Okay, so if I check out my Git status, you'll see like app.js is not added. And that's okay, that's what I want. I like to have work separated, right? Like this is where I started. This is the next piece. This is the next piece, and not have things that are bleeding across, right? Like I don't necessarily want to commit unfinished features. So this whatever I'm doing right now inside of app.js, this is nothing. So I don't want to commit this just yet. I'm not ready. So I'm just going to commit these two things. Git commit -m. And this is just like initial commit. Okay. The other thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to add my git ignore stuff. Okay. So maybe while I'm here, I should probably initialize this as a node package, an npm folder. So npm in it, okay, as well. Oh, doesn't like that. Okay. And so we have our package.json file there. We're eventually going to get some node modules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo, I'm going to code .git ignore here. Okay, I'm going to add some stuff to my git ignore. Just I would do this as soon as I know that when I should be doing this. Okay. So we're going to look at our git ignore. We should be adding node modules. And we should also be adding, for me, desktop, I think it's desktop.ini. Yeah, I want to ignore that. It always ends up showing up eventually. I think that should cover everything, okay? You do want to keep your package.json file in there, okay? And I'm going to need to commit this git ignore file as well. We're going to take a look at our status. I'm going to commit that git ignore file. I'm also going to commit that package.json file. I'll commit those together. Git add.git ignore and package.json. So I'm adding npm and ignore the git node, the node modules folder. A question that came up was, should I start doing my node stuff now, my node package, my gulp stuff now at the beginning? And the answer is technically yes. Technically in a larger project, right? Like for these exercises, for these examples that we're doing, these are tiny, right? 2-3 day projects. You will not be working on 2 or 3 day projects. You will be working on week, month, likely. The smallest projects that you work on are usually months. You're going to want to create your gulp file right now. It would be one of the first things you do, okay? You would create your structure, which is something I asked for, so something I should probably do as well, okay? So I need to make dir source, and I need to move my index, my style, and my, can I move 2 things at once? Does anyone know? I can? How do I do that? Do I just type in the name?
Yeah. The last one is
the last one is the directory.
Okay, interesting. I wonder how it knows not to move the first one. Maybe it just looks at the last one and it says everything that came before it. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to move. I'm also going to make a dir source CSS, and see, and I've been doing this for 10 years and I never bothered to look, can I move 2 things at once? I'm glad some of you have. 10 years, I wish 10 years longer than that. Make dir source, okay, and we're gonna add JS as well, a directory for JS. So we're gonna move index into source. We are going to move JS app in source JS. And we're going to move style into source.css. Okay. And I guess we'll do this the right way. We'll do this the right way. Okay. And which means we're going to have to modify a little bit of stuff. So I'm going to reopen this in code. Okay, and again, the way you did this may be a little bit different. One, I'm trying to get through this in a reasonable time frame, and two, I'm trying to do this correctly. Okay, so I move these in here. I'm going to change this now. It is no longer app.js. I need to adjust this to js/app.js and css/style.css. Okay, so that's good. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a gulp file, and I'm going to create it out here, gulp file.js. Okay, just like that. Now inside the gulp file. So now, again, would be a really good time to, you could commit this, or you can probably do a little bit more work on this. I should probably just create a new branch real quick called gulp. And so one thing I just want to remind you, when you look at the stuff that you have going, okay, you can still create a branch. If I check out another branch, remember all these changes come with me, okay? They only stick around, they only stick to a branch once I commit them. So if I create a new branch called gulp, okay, and I check out gulp, these changes are coming with me. I check my Git status, they're right here with me, okay? So yeah, let's git add dot. I didn't want to git add dot git status. Okay, I didn't want to add app.js yet, but that's fine. We will add it now because it's our structure. So we're git commit basic app structure. So we're creating our directory structure here. Okay, so I've committed that. Now I'm going to work a little bit on my gulp. I'm going to install a module, npm install gulp. And I'm going to install gulp clean CSS. And I think we'll probably start there. Okay. Yeah, we can start there. Gulp, well, what else do I need? I'll just install everything that I know. So we're kind of doing two things at once here. So I'll pop over to the other assignment at the same time. And I ended up looking at the problems I was having with browser sync, and I'm still not convinced about it, that the problems I was having are reasonable. So I'm going to actually cut it out. I'm not confident in it right now. What else do I need? Gulp Babel, Gulp Uglify. We'll add browser sync either way because I asked you to add it. Gulp Uglify and Gulp Babel. So we'll go grab that. I remember Gulp Babel had a few like weird ones. So we'll grab those three. install Babel Core. And this should install everything that we need. So Clean CSS, Babel, Uglify, Browser Sync. Clean CSS, Browser Sync, Uglify, Babel. Okay, so we'll install all that. We're going to need some tasks for these. A lot of these things, in all honesty, are going to be copy and paste from your previous assignment, from your previous exercise. And guess what? I'm going to ask you to do it again. Right? There are some ways that you can adjust and maneuver, but for the most part, once you get a good the workflow, once you get a good tool set going, right? And that might be the case in many of your applications that you write professionally. It might take you a day to set up your tools the first time, but after that, you're probably, the next project, you're probably going to copy over 90% of your Gulp file or whatever script that you have previously written, because you're going to reuse 90% of them, 10% of it might change. So you'll have to adjust it, right? Which is great and shitty at the same time, because you do it so infrequently. If you're only working on a project once every couple months, you do this type of stuff so infrequently that you always forget it, right? So you'll go to your new project, the second project that you work on, the third project that you work on, and it's been 3 months since you used Gulp, and you forget everything, and everything's been updated, and you've got this learning curve again, right? And that's very common, right? When you don't do something every day, and there are many things, many tasks that you don't do every day. You do Git every day. You do JavaScript or programming every day. So those ones you'll remember, but there's some technologies you work with infrequently. And so every time you need to work with it, you have to check the documentation. And that's a lot of the life that I live right now. I teach this once every 6 months. So I only see it once every 6 months. So before every course, I have to check, has anything changed? Is everything still, like Browser Sync is a perfect example of that. So we're just waiting for this to install. While we're waiting for this to install, we can start writing our Gulp file a little bit. And that's pretty straightforward. Const Gulp equals. So something that you might have seen, okay? And I'm going to bring this up now because we're going to start to see it in React. This is not required, but I'll show you. Okay. Something that you might have seen is this. Have you seen anything like this in any of the documentation?
Yeah.
Do you know what this is? Do you know what this is doing?
No.
I think they're stating, instead of the Gulp, stating that we are going to use the source and test and watch function in the Gulp thing. Yeah.
You got it. You got it. So this and this. So we're pulling out specific functions in this case. In line 1, we're pulling out specific functions. So we're constantly doing this. Gulp.src, gulp dot dest, okay? Gulp, okay? But this is a special syntax for ES6, and it allows us to deconstruct something. It's called destructuring, okay? We destructure what's coming out of here, and we pull in, because gulp.src is a property or a method on Gulp, destination. When we do this, okay, I'll show you a quick thing, little side here. I think we did look at this actually, but it's a weird application. So we have when we have prop 1 2. So this line, line 8, once we run it, we are essentially getting this. We're getting 2 variables, separate variables that we declared, prop1 and prop2, okay? And they are being assigned based on the values in the object that is coming in. So we're destructuring this object. So as long as these variables on the left-hand side are named the same thing as properties or methods in the object that's coming in, those get pulled, not pulled out, but copied out and placed into this variable. So prop1 becomes something, prop2 becomes something else. The order of these don't matter, the naming matters. 1. Okay, the order of these don't matter. So this is still, if I console log prop1 down here, right, I get something, the string something. If I console log prop2, I get something else. So that's called destructuring. Okay, and that's exactly what's happening over here. Gulp is a object, right? We have a gulp object and it has many properties and methods. 3 of those methods are called src, dest, and watch. And we know that because we're using them, src, dest, and gulp, watch, okay, because we're using them. So we know that. So when we do this, what we're doing is we're essentially taking that object and we're only pulling out the methods that we care about and we're putting them directly into our own variables. So now we don't have to use gulp dot. We can just use src, dest, and watch. And you're going to see that a lot once we get to React. Okay, that's very common.
And you don't need line 2, right?
No, line 2 was it's either, I put that there as either, you're either going to do this or you're going to do this. Okay, so for this sake, sorry for that little tangent. It was something that I've been wanting to jump in on and say something, but like I feel like every day we have so much stuff and I'm not really teaching a lot today, so I just wanted to show you that. Yeah, so it's either this, and again, you don't need all of these. You only need the ones that you need. If you're only using gulp.src and gulp.dest, then that's all you need. But again, if you're using gulp.serial or series and gulp.parallel, you're going to need those too. Right? If you need those, because right now I do not have access to gulp anymore because I never pulled gulp in. If you need access to gulp itself, like the whole object, then you might as well not do this. Then you might as well just do gulp. Okay. Instead, we're only pulling out what we need. I don't know if we need parallel or series. We'll take series anyways, but you know, we'll take it when we need it. Clean CSS. Const. What else do we need here?
Babel, ugly pie.
Yeah, Babel. Let me just double check. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Const uglify. And gulp uglify. And then we're going to do const browserify. No, not browserify. Browser sync. It's create. And there we go. Okay, so that's a really good start. I think we'll keep writing this. I don't think this is quite where we want to finish yet. Okay, so I'm going to create my Babel task. Okay, so again, this is not the way we want to do it. We're going to create our own task. We're going to say function. Let's call this JS. Okay, we'll have separate functions. It's nice to have separate functions for the disparate parts of your system. So if I'm doing JavaScript, I'll do a function for JavaScript. If I'm doing when you're using Gulp Watch, there are specific things that you're going to want to run, certain tasks that you are going to want to run. And that may be indicative that you might have to split apart some of these tasks. Like, I only want to perform this task. I don't want to perform all these other things, which means you may have to split apart a task. And that's okay. Okay. So we're going to do a JS. Okay. I saw this other syntax yesterday that I really liked for this. And instead of CB, we're just going to call it done. And to me, that's a little bit more accurate of what we're doing. Okay. So again, you can either do this done. You can put in a parameter here and call it at the end to indicate this is done once I'm done this task, or you can return. Returning suggests that you're returning something though, like you're passing something back to be used from someone else. And so I think it's a little bit less obvious. So I actually prefer this. We're going to be picking up our source, dropping it off into over here, dist app.js. But after we convert it using Babel, I'm also going to pipe into, I think I would need pipe in here too, actually, but we'll find out. So I don't need gulp anymore. I can just use src. I don't need gulp here. I can just use dest. I'll probably need to put in pipe in there too, in here, but we'll find out. Okay. And so we're going to pipe this into Uglify. Okay, before we take it out. So we're grabbing our JavaScript, putting it through Babel, putting it through Uglify, dropping it off in the destination, and we're done. Okay. We'll do the same thing with our CSS. Okay, so done. And I'll pretty much just copy this, even though it's got a little bit more than I need. Instead of picking up our app.js, and actually I think it's already broken down. Yeah, so we need to say js./app, js/app, and it's, sorry, CSS style.css. And we are piping it into clean CSS, and our dest is CSS/style, or CSS, right? Dist CSS. And we'll call, now that we're done that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So on line 20, at the end of this the CSS, there's another slash, right? Can I just not do without it? And why is it there sometimes and sometimes it's not?
Yeah. So this is kind of like it's implicit. This is implied. It's not like it recognizes that, oh, this is a directory. Putting that there also indicates that CSS is a directory and not a file, right? But it's pretty obvious that it's a directory and not a file, right? So you're going to come across that you're going to come across that all over the place. You're going to come across that here. You're going to come across that up here, right? I could put a slash at the end of this, or I can not put a slash at the end of this URL, right? And it's the same thing. And actually my browser took the slash off, okay? Or you're going to come across that over here, right? certain, like you're just something you're going to have to get used to. It's the difference between implied and assumptive, right? But it means the same thing. No slash or slash. It's the one that matters is not the one at the end. The one at the end does not matter at all. It's the one at the beginning that matters, because this and this are very different things. This and this are completely. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, but this and this are the same. So that's pretty much all we needed. We needed browser sync in here too. So I'm gonna, so I found, I'll show you what I found. Browser sync gulp 4, and I found a little sample, minimal browser sync setup with gulp 4. So I wanted to try this, so I'll try this with you guys if you're cool with that. Okay. So they have 2 functions in here. Okay, they have they actually did it pretty interesting. So they called it server instead of browser sync, so that's fine. Server's fine, whatever. Okay, so they have a reload, a browser sync reload function, which will reload browser sync on any changes. So how it works is we have browser sync running, okay, serve, okay, and this is the standard browser sync syntax. You have browser sync running, and when something changes, you manually reload it. This was not something I ever remember needing to do. In my past experiences, browser sync, once the whole purpose behind browser sync is you do not have to tell it to reload. It detects changes and automatically reloads. Okay, so this is a little bit further than I would have expected you to go. Definitely further. I don't expect this. I would have expected this pretty much, something like this. Okay, not something like this. But we're going to get this going so we can actually see this work. Okay. And then this is the pretty interesting thing. This is the watch task, and we're going to be doing the watch task anyways. Okay, so we have watch, right? A watch task function, okay, gulp.watch, which provides us path to what we're watching. What are we watching? Okay, we are watching 2 directories. Right? We are watching the CSS directory, and we are watching the both the CSS directory and the JavaScript directory. So we're going to be watching src.js/star.js. So any JS files, and we're also watching. Actually, I need to go to my watch. Gulp watch documentation here. I can't quite remember. Right, yes. Okay, so it's essentially doing this. Right, this is essentially what we're doing. We're watching our CSS source, CSS/CSS, and we're also watching the JavaScript, okay? And all we need to run is JS. We don't need to run it in series. Except if we wanted to run gulp, if we wanted to run browser sync reload after any of them changed, we would run it in series, okay? So that's the one piece that we're missing, is we would say series. So we would say series is do this, then do this. So we're essentially saying do CSS on any CSS change, and then reload browser script, browser sync. Again, this is outside of what I would expect you to do. Okay, and this is, I'm just showing you this because this is a little bit new. So we are going to, anytime any CSS file changes, we're going to run our minify CSS, and we're going to reload browser sync. Okay, that's what we're going to do. And now we need to set this up all together. Okay, which is essentially this. Exports. And we're going to say in this order, JS, CSS, browser sync serve. So we're going to start up browser sync. So we don't necessarily need to run Java. So series, again, reminder, series is essentially saying, run these in this order: JS, CSS, serve, watch. I don't need to run JS and CSS in any specific order, but I do need to make sure that they run before serve and before watch. Okay, because serve is going to be serving up these things. Watch is going to be running these commands. Okay, and browser sync is not going to be serving from the slash directory. It's going to be, it's going to be serving from the dist directory. Okay. And I have one more thing to add. And then our gulp piece is done, and we'll commit this. Okay. And this is just one of these. We're not piping to anything.
Sorry, Jeff. Do you need to add series at the beginning of the file?
Series at the beginning. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. Yep. Yeah, I do. Okay, so we're going to copy over our HTML. So we need to also add series up here because we're using it, right? And I had mentioned, as we start to use more gulp pieces, right? You can see here, there's a gulp.series, and gulp.watch. I'm not using that. I also think I need to use pipe. I probably need to put pipe in here, but I'm not exactly sure. They don't have creating tasks. Let's see. Yeah, they don't have pipe. Do they have pipe? They don't use pipe anywhere in here, so it's hard to tell whether or not they. Yeah, well, I'll find out. I'll find out super soon, right? I'll find out really quick. So actually, I want to do HTML as well in here. Okay, and I probably, technically, if there's any changes to the HTML, which there will be, right? We're going to be making modifications to the HTML. We won't be making any modifications to the CSS. So it's kind of pointless, but okay. Anytime we're going to make any modifications to any of these things, CSS, run this, right? On CSS, run the CSS one. On JS changes, run the JS changes. And we're going to be watching. Okay. So this is if we make any changes to the HTML, run the HTML code. And that's going to say reload browser sync. Okay. And again, we're serving from the dist directory. So here is our setup. Okay. We haven't written a stitch of code yet, but we're ready. Okay. Now that might seem crazy and excessive, but remember, this is going to save us time in the long run. Remember a couple things. One, this is supposed to support our development. Okay. So all the development we're doing, you're not going to get the payoff in this course. Okay. This is not the course where you're going to get the payoff of time. Okay, you're going to get the payoff of time later. And two, 90% of this, you're going to reuse. You're going to be able to almost copy and paste this for your final project. Okay, just about 100% of this with a couple of tweaks, changing your paths a little bit, maybe changing the order of what you need done, maybe adding something, maybe removing something, but it's going to be almost 100%. Okay, so that's your payoff. You spend a little bit of time now and you get the payoff for the long run. So here you go. Let us give this a go and see how it works. Now, I don't have any, I do have files actually, pretty minor files, but we'll try gulping this and we'll see what it says. See if I need to add pipe, see if I have any errors, see if it opens browser sync. No errors. Perfect, we're rolling. Now, if I make any changes to my HTML, right? Let's take away this full one-day forecast, this current forecast, current conditions. Save. It's automatically updated. And remember, this is being served from my dist directory. I'm working in my source directory. This is being served from my dist directory. So this is my production ready version. I'm working on a development version in SRC, but this is my production ready. This is what I would put out on the internet. And I'm proving to myself that even though I'm working in my SRC code, that it compiles, transpiles, converts, updates, compresses, does all this stuff correctly and is working. Because the last thing you'd want is to be working in your SRC directory, right? Your development code, your uncompressed stuff, and then you run it through a program right at the end, and you realize none of it works. None of the output works. You don't want that. So you want to be testing often in your dist directory to make sure everything works as expected. The output works as expected, right? There you go.
I have a quick question.
Hi, Joy.
Yeah. Sorry, up first and Bing.
Okay, so sorry. So in the sync of browser sync, I use the
Yeah.
base directory, not dist, but the source directory, because at first it didn't work.
Yeah, that's fine.
I kind of realized it's okay. Okay.
I mean, like for this project, it's fine. So a lot of the stuff that I'm telling you right now is like real things, like what you would really do in real life, not what I'm expecting for this project or what I would have expected. Did you add browser sync? Does it work?
Yes, it does. But
Perfect.
the thing is that
That's good. Nope, that's good. You can stop
doesn't
there.
have any, okay.
Yep. That's all I'm looking for. Okay. Bing?
For this browser sync, do we need to change the HTML and change the script?
For the assignment or for in real life?
No, just in this case, because in browser sync, the browser sync also check the previous JS and CSS, but not the new one, I think.
I'm checking the CSS and I'm just serving everything from dist, right? So I'm doing the HTML, the JS, and the CSS. I'm doing all of them. I'm watching all of them. If I don't watch one of them, it won't reload on changes. So like if I took this off, well, it wouldn't even compile. So like even if I took this off, reload. So I'm not updating browser sync. Let's pretend I'm not updating browser sync, but I'm still running the stuff. Okay. That's interesting. Should I not have a index.html? Yeah, I do. Is it not? What's going on here? That's really strange. Okay, that was really weird. So I'm not watching any of those tasks now, so I'm not reloading browser sync, and I don't suspect that it will properly reload when I change this and save. If it does, yeah, right. So I have to tell it to reload. Again, that's something I did not expect because I don't remember it being that way. I thought browser sync was supposed to automatically reload, but I have to tell it to reload when I change something.
Can I ask a question, John?
Yep.
So I remember when we were introduced to GitHub, the video, it says like once a new feature or new function has been made to the whole project, and then the developers will publish it to, let's say in this case, we will publish it into the dist folder. So I wonder, is that necessary for us always to compress our files when we change them, instead of like doing the compressing when we finish on the entire project?
No, but again, the last thing that you want is to get to the end, compress it, and run into a bunch of errors, right? You would rather have those errors occur as you're doing it as early as possible. So that way you don't have to like be like, oh my God, I added this thing that doesn't work in the end. It works on development, right? What you don't want is the whole complex of, but it works on my machine. Why doesn't it work on your machine, right? You're going to encounter that. You're going to encounter things that you build where it works on your machine and it doesn't work on someone else's, or alternative prior to you compressing it, but it doesn't work after you compress it. Why? I don't know. There could be a billion reasons, but it's better to encounter those errors little by little instead of right at the end, which is another reason why, and we've never done this, but I've mentioned this, we do cross-browser testing, right? We test in Firefox, and we test in Chrome, and we test in Safari, and we test in IE to make sure our stuff works in every browser. And we don't save that till the very end. We need to be doing that along the way. Otherwise, if we save it to the very end, we may encounter such big errors that we have to go way back and make huge modifications to our code because we layered so much more stuff on top, right? When our code, as you know, our code base gets really, really large, and it's better to deal with those little problems as they come up, as opposed to just sending everything to the end and saying, I'll deal with it then, because if you do that, you're in for a world of pain. So okay. I would recommend doing this frequently.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It maybe not every save. You don't necessarily have to be, but I mean, now I don't ever have to think about doing this. Oh shit, I forgot to run gulp, right? I just run gulp and I start working. And it's just constantly producing the output. And I'm looking at the output all the time. If this ever stops working, well, now I can immediately identify there's a problem. All right, so this is an excellent place to commit. So we're gonna look at our status. So I'm committing all this stuff. I'm gonna commit my dist directory. You don't technically need to, because technically you can generate it, right? Dist is something that you can generate. So anyone who downloads this, who git clones this, they can technically do an npm install, right? Because they don't have the node modules folder. So they'll do an npm install. They'll get all the packages they need because all the packages are tracked in package.json. Then they can just type in gulp because everything has been installed. All those dependencies have been installed, and dist will automatically be generated. That's the whole premise of this. A new developer jumps on the project. You've been working on this thing for 2 weeks. They don't have the code, they don't have the modules. You've been committing to GitHub, right? They just go git clone, download the thing, npm install all the packages, gulp, boom, everything's up and running and ready to go. That's the concept. That's one of the main concepts of this, right? So when you're thrown on a new project, those are the steps that you're going to take. A project that's already going, when someone's already built this thing for you, npm install, and then run the script. It may not be gulp, it may be something else, but okay. So we're going to commit all these files because we do need these, at least these three. We don't necessarily need the dist, okay? So git commit. Okay. And we're going to git checkout master. And git merge gulp. And save, close. And then this is where you would push. Okay. This is where I will push, but I will need to create a new Git folder for this new repository. Knit weather. And we're doing this.
You made it public.
I'm going to delete it later. All my stuff is public. And this way I can just share this repository with you. No. Oh, actually. There we go. Git remote remove origin. Let's do that again. I got rid of that password thing. Oh, no. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. There we go. Perfect. Okay. And there you go. So that is your most of this part. Okay, that's pretty much a good chunk of this and a good chunk of this. Okay. I think now would be a really good time to take a break. We'll come back and we'll finish up the weather. We'll start and finish up the weather widget. Sorry, I forgot that we have 2 things to go over today. So we'll start and we'll finish up the weather widget and then we'll go from there. Then we should be just about done and you should be on your way to doing your assignment, your final project. Okay. So let's take 15. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, questions.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, of course.
I only get ignored the node modules, not the package log or package.json.
No, you don't want to ignore the package.json or
yeah,
the package.
that's what I read, but before when you were adding something to get ignore, there was package.json.
No. My git ignore file looks like this. Desktop INI and node modules.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you don't have desktop INI because I don't know what the hell that is. I think that's added from Google's sync that I sync with Google Drive. I think that's where that comes from, but I'm just in the habit of adding it now.
Sorry, I was seeing things. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So let's take 15. So come back at like 5 after 10 and we'll finish up. Okay. See you in a bit. To developers who only each have 1 year of experience. That's not very good for you as an intern, right? If push came to shove and it was the only internship available, I would send someone there, but it's not. So I have to balance, right? I want people to get students, you need to go somewhere where you have the opportunity to be mentored by experienced programmers. A 3-to-1 ratio, 3 interns to 1 developer, that's not a good opportunity to be mentored, right? You want it to be the opposite. 3 developers, experienced developers to 1 intern, so you can have better opportunities to be mentored. Trust me. Okay, so off today. Okay, what is going on here? Okay, so okay, we're talking about weather, so let's do our weather widget. So I'll share my screen with you here. Okay. So we're going to head on back to our app.js. Okay. Oh, this is not the one we want. This is the minified one. We want to use this one here. This is the one we're working in. We're done with our gulp file. We're done with gulp. Okay. Now it's just, we could just technically have it running in the background if we wanted to. Okay. I have my API key. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the location, the geolocation, right? For the users. So I always forget, I think it's navigator.geolocation.get current position. Yeah, okay, get current position is a function that's built into the browser that will grab the current position. Okay, first function that we provided is success. Second function, if we were to add another one, that would be what would happen if they said did block or deny. Okay, we're not going to worry about the block or deny for this case because we don't really need to. And here we're going to be provided with a parameter into this function by the browser. The browser is going to provide us with a piece of information, and that is the coordinates. Okay, and I believe it goes actually pause. It doesn't matter what we call it, but I believe it's pause.coords. Yeah, so I don't want to call it coords because it's going to be coords.coords, and that would be silly. So I'm going to call it position, pause, position, whatever else. But okay, and we have dot latitude and pause dot coords dot longitude. Okay, so those are the two parameters that we're getting out of here. So that's going to be our latitude and longitude. Okay, now from here, we can make a couple calls, right? We can get current conditions, and we can get forecasted conditions. Now, these don't exist yet, but they will. And what we can do over here is pass in these latitude and longitude, okay, to both of them, because if we're making calls out to an API, we're probably going to need the latitude and longitude. So I'm just going to make that assumption in advance. Now, I'm just going to comment this out because I don't want it to break yet, or alternatively, you can just create the skeleton function, get forecasted conditions, okay? You can just do something like this and function get current conditions. You don't need to, and again, these are just ideas, right? I'm putting out ideas here as I'm thinking about them. In terms of the structure and the design of the application itself, and by design, I mean the programming design, not the design, the programming design, not the CSS styling design. That is not necessarily something that you need to plan out. A lot of it will be organic, okay? Over time, you will make decisions like this, okay, like this, and you will change those decisions over time. So I'm making this decision right now. The stopping and thinking part, right, is going to be, how am I going to solve this problem, right? That's where you pause and you think. You don't necessarily pause and think necessarily about all the design. I mean, some people will sit and architect an application because it's so large and separate it into pieces. But when we're about something small like this and just breaking things down into functions, a lot of this will happen organically. Okay. So we're going to start with get current conditions. So we're looking at taking in the lat and the long of the user's current location, and we're going to get the current positions. And this is going to be a call to the API. So let's pop over to, I'm in Chrome over here. We're going to pop open weather map. Okay, we have our API key, API, and we're getting current weather data. Okay, and we are looking for, we're not looking for city name, right? We are looking for geographic coordinates. So by geographic coordinates, so it looks like this. Okay. So a couple things that we'll need to fix in here, but it's almost all done for us. Doing a fetch. Okay, lat, which is going to be our lat and our long and our API key. And that's not, it's long, okay, and our API key. And we're going to say, not this, we're going to say then resp.json. And we're going to say .then. We could call it data. Okay, and we'll just console log that data so we can take a look at it. Okay, so we're going to make a call based on our lat and our long and our API key to get current conditions. And we're going to console log that data. Okay, pretty easy. So let's take a look. When we crack open this file over here, source, okay, it will prompt us, wants to know our current location, allow, inspect, and we have our console, fail to fetch, get current conditions. URL scheme must be HTTP or HTTPS for CORS request. Oh yeah, gotta put some stuff here. There we go. Again, there we go. So we get our current, so see, it calls my location city center. I am definitely 100% not in the center of the city. And I don't live in a city called city center. But, okay, I don't know about these latitudes and longitudes, like how well it's determining the name. I don't necessarily trust it, but that's okay. That's not part of this assignment, okay? I would say, what's that? Someone, no, okay. So we got current conditions. So we actually have enough to start doing this thing right now, okay? We have our weather, right? And that's, wait, no, we have, what's weather? Weather is where we get the icon and the description, right? The icon and the description. And then we have main, which is where we have our temp. Now, this is reminding me, it gives me Kelvin defaults. I don't want Kelvin. I want units equals
Metric.
Metric, thank you. Units equals metric. Okay, so we're going to add that here. Okay, but I can still work with this. Okay, so great. I have this information. I'm going to use this and I'm going to update current conditions. And I'm going to pass that data over. Okay. If you wanted to, you can pass only the specific pieces of that data that you want. Okay. For example, I really only care about this description and this main, right? I don't really care about the other stuff. So I could say data dot weather 0 and data dot main. Okay. Sorry, I could pass that over here if I wanted to. to only pass over the data that matters. And that way you're dealing with a little bit less information. Okay. So again, I'm already kind of like making a mental decision that I don't want to do all this stuff in here. This is just going to get the current conditions. Over here, it's going to update the current conditions. Alternatively, depending on what you wanted to do, you can return this. So this is kind of, we're getting into this like dependency place where this is associated to this, right? So we're calling get current conditions from here. It calls something else from there. Sometimes that's not necessarily ideal. Sometimes you might want to return and then call update current conditions after you get the information, right? So you could say current conditions equals blah, and then we call update current conditions with that. The problem here is this is asynchronous and this is not. So that puts us in a little bit of a precarious position that we'd have to do some pretty severe refactoring for. Okay, and I'm not prepared to do that. So let's just go like this. Okay.
John,
Yeah.
is it, so if I didn't see the units equals metric in the API documentation, if I like just did a calculation, is that okay?
That's fine. I thought I mentioned that in here. I do mention that right here. So that it is Calvin by default, and you do need to pass a parameter into the endpoint to ask for a different unit type. So I would have preferred that. It is a little bit of an excessive work, but that's fine by me.
Okay.
Just make sure you read it carefully next time. So update current conditions, and this is where we're simply just going to be taking this thing right here, okay, and injecting our update. So this is what it looks like, okay. Included current conditions because this is what we're going to be selecting. So we're going to be saying const current conditions element equals document.query selector current conditions. Okay, and then we don't need that anymore. This is what we're going to be injecting into in the end. So it's going to be essentially current conditions dot element dot inner HTML equals some current conditions HTML that we're going to create. This doesn't exist yet, but again, I'm going to make that right now. So current conditions HTML is going to just be an empty string to start. And we'll build that, okay? We need NH2. We need an icon. This. So essentially we need all this. And actually, it can look kind of just like this. Oops, I deleted an extra line there. Right, it can look just like this. With an indentation there.
I think the last div, closing div, is unnecessary.
Yep, you are correct. And here. Okay, and here. So we've got a couple things. Here, we need to accept our conditions and our weather, right? So I essentially have two pieces. I have conditions, which is conditions was over here, right? Conditions. So conditions is description, conditions.description. Okay.
John, just real quick, while you're here, you might want to Control Z back a little bit for your image SRC because we don't need the whole address. We're just going to be modifying a portion of it.
Okay, that's, oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna need this piece here.
Yeah, that's right.
No,
Actually,
only the
not
first
even
three.
that. Yeah, only the first three.
Two
Yeah.
times.
Only the first three. Okay, and current. So we're gonna say conditions and current. We're gonna say conditions dot description. And conditions dot icon. And then conditions dot, oh, and this is
That's so much easier.
current dot temp. The problem is the temperature, it is coming in metric, but it's probably going to be like a point something, right? And that's not super nice. So I'm just also going to copy and paste this. Okay. So I'm going to just round it, and I'm not going to do any sort of special rounding. I'm just going to do
That's wrong.
math.round. Yeah, exactly. Math.round.
Hey, John,
Yeah.
is round just like round down if it's under 5, up if it's under or over?
I don't even think so. I think it's just round down, honestly.
I too, but I just wasn't sure.
Let's try it over here. So 5.6 math.round. Like there is a better way to round. Oh, no. It rounds properly. Okay, there you go. Just like we learned in school.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so that's good. So math.round, round it. And there we have it. So now we're going to say current conditions. And like, I'm going to show you something that's not necessarily the best. Okay, so we could say current conditions dot inner HTML equals current conditions. But I mean, technically, you could have done something like this. This is kind of super ugly, but it's a thing. And then you don't need this, and you don't need this. I'm just not assigning any variables at all. Yeah, it's definitely more terse like this, but it's definitely not what I would say ideal. You're going to see that. Right? You're going to see stuff like that. You might do stuff like that sometimes to save code, but you're not saving code. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So technically, I can get rid of this little piece here. Save and refresh. Allow. Update current conditions. HTML is not defined. Oh yeah. Boop, 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 boop. Wrong word. There we go. And oops, put it the wrong way. So I put the current description in temp and the temp in current description. And let's try that again. There we go. 18 degrees Celsius, broken clouds. It is broken and cloudy outside. So I would say that's fairly accurate. Okay. Big piece done. Okay. Any questions about this so far? This is a great spot. I should have get branched. Okay. I should have made some commits along the way. What do you do if you didn't? Then you do it now. Okay. But I'm trying to train you to do it consistently. Like, oh, I have to. If I say you have to, if I was your boss and I said, you have to commit every hour. And then at the end of the day, you're like, oh shit, I didn't do it. Okay, the first day, fine. Right? But the next day, you got to do it. Because if that's what I'm asking you to do, that's what I'm asking you to do. That is my assumption. that you're doing that every hour. And your job depends on it. I mean, it probably doesn't, but essentially, if you don't do what you're being asked to do, you won't be considered a good programmer because you can't follow directions. Okay, so you have to be able to follow directions. So, okay, just remember to commit early, commit often. Get forecasted conditions here. Okay, so this is the fun part. So we're gonna pop on over back here and we're going to get our forecast. We're gonna get the 5-day forecast. And again, we are going by geographic coordinates. Right here. And so it's going to look a lot like this. The only difference is we are not doing weather, we're doing forecast. So that's pretty much the only difference. Okay, cancel. We're going to be doing something very similar to this. Okay. And then we are going to, instead of update current conditions, we're going to say update forecasted conditions. HTML. Okay, and I don't know what data I'm passing yet, so I'm just going to pass the whole thing. Okay, and again, actually, yeah. Okay, I'm just going to pass the whole piece of data, and we'll write this function. Okay, update forecasted conditions HTML. We're going to accept this big chunk of data, and we'll just console log the data for now. We'll take a look at it, and we'll see what we're dealing with. Okay, so come over here, refresh, allow, and lat is not defined, line 9. Oh yeah, we are not accepting the parameters. And there we go. So we have our city information, okay, not important. We have our count, we have our list. Our list is the important part. Okay, inside each, we have 2 pieces of time information. We have a DT. DT is Unix timestamp, okay, and DT text is text. Either of them actually should be okay for creating a new date out of. So if you wanted to do date, new date, and you provided it with a Linux timestamp, a Unix timestamp, you get, that is not, let's see, date equals new. That is not the date I would have expected. 1970. Nah, that's not what I expected. Okay, well, you should be able to.
You have to, you have done it with a formula, multiply with 1000, I think.
Why?
Yeah.
That's super stupid. Why would I have to do that?
Yeah, that's what I was getting as well, 1970, then I changed it.
Why? Unix timestamp JavaScript date. Not how to get a Unix time. But actually, the better question is Unix timestamp. This is the better question. What is it right now? 159.753.00.75364. And what did we get? 159 something. Oh, that is, well, that's not for today.
1,000?
Yeah, but multiplying by 1,000, this is the time. Multiplying by 1,000 would add 3 commas to it, right? That's what multiplying by 1,000 would do. Not 3 commas, would add 3 zeros onto this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How big is our number over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so it's not it's not the Unix timestamp that's incorrect. It's JavaScript that's broken.
In this case, I use another parameter for that.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yes, I'm using another parameter. Absolutely. It's just.
Yes.
I don't understand why. Like, why do I need to multiply by 1,000? Why do I need to? That's so stupid. Oh, so that the argument is in milliseconds and not seconds. I just rolled. I don't know if you can hear me roll my eyes at that, but I'm rolling my eyes at that. I wouldn't.
Sorry.
I wouldn't use that anyways. I would use. So we saw. So I'm just going to refresh this. Just for FYI, for your information, I tend to go. So one of the things you need to do, right, is like you need to kind of test this data. I would take DT text instead. Okay, you need to when you're getting data, you can't just assume that it's correct or it works, right? You need to kind of test it to make sure. New date, and we're just going to stick in this string that it provided and make sure that it converts it to the right thing. May 21st, 2020, 6 p.m. Okay, so we're going to use DT text to get the date. Okay, so we know that data.dt text is good. Okay, so this will give us the date. Now, this is where the problem solving comes into play, right? Like these ones were pretty straightforward. It's a lot of programming. But here is where things get a little bit more complicated, right? We're looking for the dates for the next 5 days. And if I look at the data that it gave me here, which now I'm going to have to refresh because I keep deleting it, it is giving me the data for the next it gives me 40 data points, right? And 40 is too many. So what I need to do instead is I need to somehow break this up or put it in buckets or something, right? And it does give it to me in order, so that's kind of nice. So 21, today is, so that's May 21st. Today is May 21st. So this is 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then we're on the 22nd already. And it goes all the way until the 26th. So we get a little bit of Thursday, Friday. So we really want 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. So we really want the next days. So I think what we want to do is we're going to want to group, first of all, my approach, my thinking is I want to group this data by day, right? I want to put this into separate days because it's easier for me to manage. So I want to group this by days. What I'm going to need for sure is I'm going to need a function to figure out the days.
Hey, John,
yeah.
Just a suggestion or just to discuss while we're here at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say, because we want to get rid of as well the forecasted weather for the current day, would you move that first, then group it so we don't have to worry about the data we don't need? Or would you just group it and remove it later?
Like remove these pieces?
Yeah, the pieces from today. Because we don't want...
No, I wouldn't. What I would do is I would just build some sort of like, so there's a couple ways. Okay, so here's a couple approaches that I think that we can take. Okay, and so let's talk about it before I go down that road of like ways that I think we could manage this. So I think removing that data actually is more work, right? What I would rather do here is my first approach that I'm thinking of. Okay, and this is not the approach that I took in my solution. This is a different approach. Ray made me think of this. Okay, build an object that looks like this. So we have a day number as the key, and then we have an array of these forecast objects.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Right. So day one is going to be forecast objects. So an array of forecast objects. So there's only going to be some. So we may not have. So there's potentially 6 days, right, of information. 7, 0 to 6, right? Depending on the numbers that we get in here, right? Because remember, why I'm thinking about this approach is because every day is a number in JavaScript, right? So if we use this new date, okay, and then we const date, new date. I know this is not correct where I am right now, but just bear with me for a second. And I said date dot get day. Okay, we get a number. Okay, so we're going to get a number. Now we use that number. So we can also find today's date. Right? So I know what today's date is, and I know what all the forecasts are for the next day. So let's just pretend. Let's pretend that today's date is 4. So that means I'm going to get 4, 5. So I'm going to get some forecast objects for 5, 6, 7. No, not 7. Doesn't go up to 7. 6, 0, Sunday, 1. So wait, what do you have? So we're on 4. So we're going to get a little bit for today. That's fine. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So this is what we're going to get. So this is what the object will look like. Okay, if this is what I think of. Now, what I can do from here is I can then say, okay, what is tomorrow's? Well, tomorrow's date, how do I get tomorrow's data? Okay.
Day plus 1.
It is today plus 1 mod because why? What happens when we get
Over 7.
what happens when we get to 6 and we say plus 1? Actually, it should be
undefined and you can't use it.
Should be mod 7.
Yeah, I did. But yeah, if it goes to 7, then the value becomes undefined and it can't read it, and then you get an error.
Exactly, because there is no 7. There will never be a 7. It flips back over, right? We go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, not 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when we're trying to find the next 5 days, I'm essentially going to say today, right? Or 4, today is a number 4. We do a for loop starting at 4, and we increase it by 5, modding it through 7 or something like that, right? We're going 5 times. We're running a for loop that goes 5 times. And that will go through each one of these. But the reason why I wouldn't remove 4, and again, I'm just talking about the problem here, right? I'm making this up on the fly. The reason why I wouldn't remove this is because it takes more work to remove it than it does to just ignore it. I will never be using it because I will start at 4 plus 1, which is 5. So I'm just going to get these guys. This guy will just not get looked at. And then when I go through each of these, that's when I will say, okay, now I have this array of temperature of forecasts for this day. Just go through it, find the min, find the max, pick one, that's the current conditions, print it out, boom, done. Do the same thing for the next, do the same thing for the next, do the same. So repeat the process 5 times, right? So assuming we can do that, so let's see, one, can we build something like this? Can we build a structure like this out of this data? That's part 1. Let's build this structure. Part 2, let's figure out how to iterate over this structure. Part 3, let's figure out how to get the mins and the maxes. And then part 4, let's just print that stuff out. So we've got 4 little pieces. So we're splitting the problem up into 4 little pieces. And this is where your planning comes in. How do I want to attack this, right? Just starting to write code can get really messy. But it's nice to be able, but here's the thing. Don't get too attached to any solution. When I went down this road the first time, I wrote out a solution like 30% of the way through. And then I realized like, oh shit, this was not the right choice. I should probably roll back here and start again, try something different, okay? So don't be afraid. No matter how far you've gone down the wrong road, it's never too late to turn back, okay? Do not get committed. It sucks because you're essentially admitting to yourself you wasted all that time, but trust me, you have a way better understanding of the scope of the problem and the domain of the problem than you did before. And so subsequent solutions are going to be much quicker, okay? So how are we going to do this? Let's build our structure. That's what we're going to do first. So we have this chunk of data, and this is what we've done already before. This is that word count, okay? This is that word count thing where we go through the data.list, for each. And this is going to be a forecast, okay, or daily forecast, or hourly forecast. Let's call it a forecast, okay. And we are going to build an object. So we're going to start with an empty object. Okay, so daily forecasts, because that's essentially what we're building, a bunch of daily forecasts. And in order to get to this with a bunch of daily forecasts in here, we need to start with this. We need to start with something. The first thing we're going to say is we're going to ask, right? And this is that same pattern. This is the 4th time we've used this pattern. Does daily forecasts bracket notation? We need to use bracket notation here. Okay. Does it have a property called forecast? So actually we're going to have to say const forecast or date. And we're going to say new date forecast dot dt text. Right, so we're going to get a date out of it, and then we're simply going to ask, does our empty object have a key for get date? Does it have the key 0 already? And the answer is no, it's empty. Or does it have the key 4? No, it literally does not have any keys at the moment. So the answer for this first time through the loop is always no. Okay? So we're going to ask, do you have that? And the answer is going to be no. Well, what do we do if it doesn't? Well, we'll create it. And to create it, again, just remember your object-oriented stuff or your object stuff, how to manage objects in JavaScript. To create it, all we do is we start using it. We start assigning things to it. As soon as we start assigning things to it, there we go. Well, what do we want to assign to it? We want to essentially, it's going to be an array, right? That's what we said it's going to be. It's going to be an array of forecast data, right? We're going to have multiple forecast 1, forecast 2, forecast 3, right? We're going to have multiple forecasts for Tuesday. Then we're going to have multiple forecasts for Friday or Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, okay? So we need, again, just like we did here, that array does not exist yet. So these arrays that belong to these keys don't exist yet, so we need to create it. But when we create it, we can also put something in it at the same time. It can be an empty array. We can say it's an empty array, and then we're going to say dot push. Wait, is there something called push in JavaScript? I'm confused between languages. Yeah. There's push, right? Yeah, push.
And
So-
John, just real quick too, when you switch back to VS Code,
Yeah,
ET text is TXT, just so you don't run into an error when you try to run it.
thank you. Okay, so we can either push it after, because now we have instantiated what it is from line 44, so we can push into it after, or we can just do it all in one go, which is this. We can push in this whole thing, okay, and we can push in all the information, and I think that's a fine idea. So we'll just push in forecast. So we'll push in this entire object. It gives us everything. So we're taking this. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking each one of these, each 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're grouping them up like this. That's what we're doing. Now, if it does exist, so this is what happens if it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, we create a new empty array, or we create a new array and we push it into it. Otherwise, we're just taking it, it already exists as an array, and we push it into that array. And actually, you could argue that this is probably a better approach. Right? We are always putting something into this array. The only question is, does this array exist yet? And if it doesn't, let's create it first. That's what I'm saying in this case. Instead of the if else, I'm saying if the array doesn't exist yet, create the array and then push into it. Otherwise, that array already exists. Let's just push it to it. So we're always doing line 48. It's just a matter of just determining whether or not this is there or not. Or like, we don't care whether or not it has things already. All we care about is whether it's there or not there. If it's not there, create it, then push into it. Or it already exists, let's just push into it. Right? That's,
Sir,
yep.
for line number 44, do you need to add equals undefined inside the braces?
That's a good thing to do. Yeah, you don't need to, but you should. Thank you, Ray. Yeah, we want to be, the only time we don't want to do a check is when it's coming out as a Boolean true or false, not as a truthy or falsy value. Undefined, null, 0. We still want to check those things, okay? Okay, So let's take a look at what I end up with here. So we're going to console log this daily forecast to see if I get something that resembles this. Refresh. Wow. And that is exactly what I got. Okay. Which day is today? When you're looking at this, which day is today? 0, 1, 2, 4, 5, or 6?
4.
And you know that because there's only 2. Right? I mean, well, there's a couple of reasons why you know that, but one of the obvious things is 1, today's 4th day, and 2, there's only 2 elements on it. So there you go, right? So now we have everything grouped together. Awesome. I'm actually going to move this out into its own little function, group forecasts. And I'm going to pass in data. I'm going to take this big chunk here. And instead of console logging, I'm going to return the daily forecast. Okay, so I'm going to say group forecasts, data, and we're going to get back a grouped forecasts. Cool. Okay. Now we don't have to worry about any of this thing again. It does what we need it to do. We're done with it. Get out of the way, get out of my face. I don't want to see you anymore. Okay, that's essentially what we're saying by putting it in a function. We give it data, it groups it, great. Now we can focus back on our problem set. Now we have a different thing. So part number 1, solved. Part number 2. Let's figure out how to print out today's date and how to make sure that we're able to pick the right days. Because that's like, how are we going to loop over this thing, right? So we have this thing that looks like this. It's an object, it's got numbers in it, and it's got arrays. Okay, I'm not going to do all of them this time. I'm just going to do a couple. Okay, so we have this. Okay. How are we going to loop over this? And again, you can loop over objects, but we don't really need to actually loop over it. What we need to do is we need to loop a specific amount of times. How many times, how many days do we want to run this forecast for?
5.
5.
5. How many times do we need to run a loop?
5.
What is a good loop to run when we know exactly how many times we want? What is a good loop format to use when we know exactly how many times we want to run?
While.
The answer is a for loop. We want to run exactly 5 times, right? And our goal, we said, was we want to take today's date plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 is tomorrow plus 2 is Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So we want to say let x equals 1, x less than or equal to 5, x plus plus. Let's get today's date here. And that is, so now we're able to say today's date dot get day plus x. Right, this will give us, if today's date is 4, it will give us 5, right? So let's just console log this, just so you can see how this works. Today's date dot get day plus x. X is our loop counter, right? So we're running this loop 5 times. Grouped forecast. Yeah, we're not using that yet. That's fine. Let's save that. Good. Refresh. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so cool. I'm getting tomorrow. I'm getting Saturday. Unfortunately, day number 7 is not Sunday. Day number 7 does not exist because we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So I need to restart this back at 0. And that's where our mod comes into play, right? So we're going to take this whole thing and we're going to mod it by 7. And that's going to give us 5 tomorrow, 6 Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Okay. Now we can simply pick those days right out of this grouped forecasts. So I can say grouped forecasts, and this is going to get a little bit ugly. So what you might want to do is instead of doing something like this, right, super ugly, you might want to do something like this. Because totally, this is why variables are so great. This is hard to understand, but this, is a lot easier to understand. Okay. Do I need to do that? Did I need to create this variable here? I'm only using it in this one spot. No, but it allows me to bring a certain piece of documentation to my code. So someone, even future me who's reading this in 5 minutes, can more easily make sense of this stuff. Okay, so we're just going to console.log. Okay, and here we go. Next day, tomorrow, we got this. Day after, we got this. Day after, we got that, that, and that. So now we have the next 5 forecasted days. I have this. Boom, 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 boom. Awesome. Okay. Now the big piece is get the max, get the min. Okay. And I think what we should do is we should write some functions for that. Get max temp. And we're going to pass in an array. Get min temp. And we're going to pass in an array. Okay, so we're going to get a max temp. And we're going to get a min temp. Okay, and these are going to be so similar, these functions. Okay, and then we should probably also get the name of the day, get day name, and we're going to pass in, sorry, day name equals, I don't know, what do we need to get the day name? We just pass in the date, next forecasted date. Or actually, it's not next forecasted date, it's forecasted day. This is the day that we care about. Okay, so we're going to pass in the forecasted day. We don't have anything that gets the day name, but we'll just pass in the number. It will return Monday, or it'll return Tuesday or Thursday, Wednesday, whatever. It's a really simple function. These are all just really tiny, simple functions. Okay. What else do we need? Max, min, day, and we're going to need our conditions. We'll save that one for later, okay, because that's kind of our last piece, one of our last pieces. So this is pretty straightforward. Again, day name, we'll do that one first. Function, day name, get day name, and we're going to give it a day number. And all we're going to do is we're going to return an array of day names, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we're going to select from that day number. Okay, so we have an array that's hard coded, and we're just going to pick a day number out of it. So this is going to be like 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. It's going to give it back Wednesday. So that's get day name. So we got the day name. Min temp and max temp. These are going to be very, very similar. Max temp. And this is forecasts. Okay, we're going to get a bunch of forecasts. And the only goal of this is to take those forecasts and figure out the max and the min. This is an array, so technically we can sort it if we wanted to, or we can just do a track. Like we can just say const max temp equals nothing. Let max temp. Don't equal it to anything. Why would you not want to equal it to anything? Well, you don't know that if we're doing this in the winter, it might be below 0. The high might be -10. So I don't want to start it at 0. I don't want to start at -10. So I'm just going to start it at nothing. I'm going to say forecast.for each. We're going to loop through it. We're going to grab a forecast. And we're simply going to do like a pretty standard if max temp equals undefined, i.e. it's not defined right now, then max temp equals forecast dot whatever the temperature is on the first one, right? So the first one we look at, max temp is not defined, so we're going to go grab it, and that's temp, main temp. Okay, so the first time we go through this loop and look at this first element 0, max temp is not defined. So we're going to define it at that point. We're going to define it at that point.
Wouldn't it be main.temp underscore match?
No, well,
I made it like that.
I would say either, okay? This to me says this is the max temp. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Temp max is fine. Yeah. Temp max. I will accept temp or temp max. Okay. Otherwise, else if max temp is greater than is less than the otherwise max temp exists, right? If it doesn't do this, max temp exists and it's less than the forecast, the next forecasted one, now we're saying, okay, we're updating it. Okay. So there you go.
Could we move the line 61's max temp from temp max to 59, like or undefined, or that you do this? Because it's about the same thing, right?
Yes, absolutely. Right. So if it's undefined or it's this, then we're doing that. Yeah, good call. Yeah, I like that. Okay,
John.
There you go. Yeah.
I just want to share too. Since it's an array, I just used math.max and math.min.
Me too.
Smart.
I tested it too with
Oh, I believe you. Yeah, that's a great way. So math.max function returns the largest of 0 or more numbers given as input. So if you give it an array, but wait.
You have to put that 3 dots,
Yeah,
and that's all.
first argument.
No, the problem is I don't have an array of temperatures. I have an array of forecasts. So I can't use, this only works for numbers. And I don't have numbers. I have a bunch of forecasts.
I broke mine down and I and passed the temps numbers.
So I could do that too, right? I can break this down into numbers and then pick the numbers. So there's a bunch of ways. I can sort this, right? I can sort this and then just pick the first one. I can do a for each into just temperatures and then grab the max. There's a bunch of different things I can do. I think that's great that you looked into that. Okay. We're going to do the same thing for min, except we're going to change some of this wording. Okay. Now these are so similar that it would make me want to write just one function and do a little bit of magic in there. So I can just have one function.
Yeah. You also need to change the min temp greater than.
Gotcha. Thank you. And there we go. So we have a max temp, we have a min temp, we have a day name. And the condition, I don't care. Pick one. It doesn't really matter to me, right? We are not able to average anything out. Pick midnight, pick noon. I pick noon, but again, you may not always get a noon. So just.
Yeah, I think zero is the best choice.
Zero is guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right? That's so we can say that.
Guaranteed. At least you will get one.
Yeah, it's guaranteed. So we could say condition is grouped forecast, forecasted day 0, the first one, dot weather 0, because it's also an array, dot description. And that is our condition, and we can also do an icon. And do the same thing, but it's icon. Cool. All right. So now we have everything that we need to build our piece. Okay. So again, you can break this up into another function. Or you can just do it right here. I'll just do it right here. So our last piece is, now we have to build this. So we have a div called forecast that we need to be adding all this stuff to. So we're going to go get that div, const forecast div equals document query selector. And we're just going to repeat the same process as we did before building the HTML, right? Sorry, what was it called? Forecast. Okay. And we're going to be saying const forecast HTML equals empty string, and we'll just build this up as we go along. Okay. So we are going to say forecast HTML plus equals, and we're going to push this giant piece onto it 5 times, right? Because we're running that loop 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Getting our stuff that we need to build it, and we're going to build it. Okay, and we're going to right at the end say forecast div inner HTML equals forecast.html. And in here, all we're going to do is we're going to copy one of these things, and we're going to paste it. So our day is going to be day name. Our icon right here is going to be icon. Condition is going to be condition. Temp high is going to be max temp. Oops. Max temp. We'll probably do a little math.round on that. And min temp over here. And then we can delete all this junk inside here. Oops, I closed it without saving it.
In the line 53, it might be forecast, not.
Yeah, wrong variable.
Yeah. And then.
No, it should be.
Oh no, forecast HTML.
Not dot .html.
Oh yeah, forecast. Yeah, thanks. Okay, and I accidentally closed that. So let's see if this works. And it doesn't. Get max temp is not defined. I didn't call it get max temp, did I? I called it max temp. Get max temp. Get min temp. Min temp, max temp is both fine. Actually, I think I like min temp, max temp better. Except I have those declared as variables. I don't like that. Okay. Something's got to change. So assignment to a constant. Yeah, it seems like something I would do. Line 53. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, cannot make this flex. There we go. And we got some interesting stuff here. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That looks good. But now we need to fix those max temps and min temps. So I'm just going to throw a console log in here and say, oh, I'm not returning anything from here. That's probably pretty important, I would say. Okay, I'm expecting to get something back on the other end. And if I don't return something, then I'm not going to get anything. Okay. Yay. And there you have it. That is the whole thing. Now, this is large, right? 110 lines, but I'm also very function oriented. And I'm being very explicit about a lot of things. I have a lot of functions in here that do very tiny little things each. The biggest one I have is this, and I would argue I would look at breaking this up into functions, but this really helps break down the structure of the application. So if you're debugging and I'm getting something wrong with max temp, right? When I looked at this and I saw, oh, nan, okay, well, I know exactly where I need to put in a console log, or I know exactly where I need to look. Something is in here is incorrect, probably. This would be the first case. Console log, put through a debugger, a breakpoint in here. What's going on in here, right? It helps me debug. It helps me make sense of my code. I'll push this and I'll give you the repository so you can take a look at everything. Okay, so that will be, that's how I'm going to post the solution. I'll just post the URL for the repository. Okay.
Sir, while you are doing this stuff, I just want to say, like I find a really interesting bug last night, like at 12 p.m.
Yeah.
Like at midnight. Like sometimes the icon for the forecast will gonna be the day one, not the night one. Like which means it's colorful. It's not the gray and white.
Yeah, because clear, the icon for clear, like the clear forecast, clear sky, like this is the midnight one. This is the midnight one. Clear sky always is a sun. It's never a moon. That's just the icon they provide. So even though it's dark outside, there's no sun out, but they still provide this icon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I found. Because I tried this. I tried my last night, and I find the Tuesday one and Wednesday one are the dark one. But for the Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, that's gonna be the day one.
Yeah, and if you really didn't like these icons, you can always get your own icons, weather icons, free. There's a bunch of free icons that you can use instead. They don't necessarily have the same like icon name, but like you can then assign, oh, I want this one to be 05D or whatever the icons are, right? I want this one to be whenever the forecast says partly cloudy, I'm going to use this one, right? Partly sunny, I'm going to use that one. Snowy, I'm going to use that one. Thunderstorm, right? So you can customize that too, however you want. And this icon set has nighttime stuff, right? So clear at night, you can use this. So you can actually do a little bit more logic and say, if it's dark outside and it's clear sky, use this icon. If you were really wanting to do something like that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like I found something interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I don't think it's going to be a big deal, actually.
No, I think this whole thing is interesting. I think I didn't really consider some of the interesting issues until I started thinking about it. I'm like, how does Google determine what the conditions are going to be like for the day, right? When they're giving me the weather, what are they using? Are they averaging it somehow? Do they have some sort of algorithm that averages all the conditions throughout the day and then says, well, for the most part of the day, it's going to be sunny. Therefore, we're going to say that today is sunny. I don't know, right? They have it broken down.
I think you can count
by hour.
Count by, like, say we have 8 results per day, and we can count which condition appears most, and then just to show it out there.
Yeah. And that's another way, right? Like, and it's going to depend on the project, right? So you're working on this project, client says, I want a weather widget, and you come to them and you say, okay, here's the really simple one, but here's how it works. And they say, oh, no, that's not acceptable. We need an average for the day. Okay, that's going to cost more money. Why is it going to cost more money? Because now I have to go back and I have to build more stuff, right? So you can have it works like this, and it's reasonable, or you can have the advanced version that requires more code and more this and more that, right? But it's going to cost more. And so there's always different levels to things about like what we're producing. Are we producing, a handcrafted artisanal car where every piece is fine, or like bread, or is it like a Wonder Bread type of loaf where it's just bread? It's just bread, right? So there's different levels of completeness, different levels of product that we're putting out. Any questions?
Questions, no, but I was wondering how your schedule is, how much time is open to feedback for this one? Because my approach is like totally different from what I just saw.
Good question. It's open-ish. What are we today?
We're really busy, so you don't have to. I'm just.
It's open-ish. I want to, and the thing is, you guys are going into. My initial reaction was like, wait till you get back your mark, and then we'll talk after. But I realize now that you're not going to get back your mark prior to the final project because we're starting that in 5 minutes. Yeah. So let's talk this afternoon, and I'll try to time box it to a reasonable amount of time. Okay. And then we'll go from there. Yeah, I'm busy, but you know what? This is what I'm here to help. So that is what we'll do.
So this afternoon, actually, I have a previous appointment with Zach about the assignment one. Could we do it sometime tomorrow, or?
Yes. Yeah, we can do it tomorrow. I'm more actually available tomorrow. So I have some heads to smash this afternoon for the internship stuff. So let me smash heads first, and then and then we'll talk tomorrow. Okay, so now that we're done that, let's look at the final project. Okay, so final project. Final project for this is, so I pushed this to, so first of all, I pushed this to GitHub. One thing to note, I pushed this to GitHub. I will post these. The solution will, oh yeah, this is not the URL. The solution will be, I'll just provide you with this. Okay, I'll provide you with the repo, and the gulp file is in there, the source is in there. I didn't generate a final distribution, dist group of files, but version, that's fine. Okay, so you can take a look at that. So I'll just post this as solution, GitHub URL, everything's here. Okay, final project. Final project, then lunch. Show topic. Show. Trip planner. Not my best work in terms of design. I don't know what to say. I'm not a designer, and I just didn't have the time to really put into a lot of design. But the functionality is what matters. Okay, so for this project, you will be, so if you're going to listen to anything, okay, today, listen to this. Listen for the next 10 minutes. You're going to be building a trip planning app using geocoding. We already looked at geocoding and Winnipeg Transit API. No brand new APIs. Brand new endpoint from Winnipeg Transit, but no new APIs. I'm going to provide you the HTML and CSS as normal. And I have an online demo for you. I'll show you the online demo and we'll talk about it. This is what you're building. You have a starting location. We are not taking the user starting location by default. Okay, so we're going to start at Manitoba Institute. Enter. I misspelled it, but it's pretty smart. Couple things to note here. And actually, I should go back. I provide you with what is called a bounding box, a B box. A bounding box is a set of 2 points. Okay, 2 points, and it looks like this. Bounding box, it looks like this. Okay, this is actually where I generated it. So it's the top left point and the bottom right point, and you can actually see that there's a little dot, okay? And it creates a box by generating this point and this point. It creates a box around an area that says only use geocoding. So only look for locations within that area. I have provided you with the longitude and latitude of point A and the longitude and latitude of point B to create a bounding box around Winnipeg. So all your results that are going to come from here will be from Winnipeg. You need to just insert that as a query string in your API call. So when you're making your API call, you're saying, go get a location that matches this string within this bounding box, okay? So this is limited to Winnipeg, okay? Which is fine because we're using Winnipeg Transit. Winnipeg Transit doesn't operate outside Winnipeg, well, with the exception of like St. Norbert and stuff. Okay, so we have our first list, okay? We pick a place, click. You notice that it changed color. It is selected. This is a selected location. Watch what happens when I select another one. Click, it moved. Okay, we haven't really done that. That is just manipulating HTML classes. That's all it is. There's no like super amazing new JavaScript thing. Okay, it's just some turn off all the classes and then mark a new one as selected. Okay. So you're going to want to note some of the HTML that's in here. Okay, selected. So when I switch, so this LI here has the class selected, the one that is selected. When I click on this other one, that class selected is going to move. You can see it flash, right? It moves. So I can select one. So that is how I select a origin and a destination. Where am I going? I'm going to sushi because that's where I always go. We're going to go from MITT to Sushiya on Cord. It's a pretty far bus ride. Once we have two selected, we can plan my trip. So this is a button up here. Now, you can technically let people click on this button prior to having two selected. However, it won't work. I'll show you. Here's the sunny path, right? Everything's working perfectly. Okay. Someone types in something, it shows up. Someone types in something, it shows up. They select source, origin, destination, plan my trip. Walk for 1 minute. Don't worry about the 1 minute. 1 minute, don't worry about that. Okay, not a requirement. If you want to fix that, that's fine. To stop number blah, northbound Henlow at Scurfield. Ride the bus, transfer, ride the bus, transfer, ride, walk. Winnipeg Transit has a trip planner built into it. You say latitude and longitude of where you're starting, latitude of longitude of where you're going, and it provides you with all of this information. It calls them segments. So it will give you 5, I think 3, 4, 5. It gives you 5 different options. Each option has several segments. So have any of you used Navigo before? Yeah, right? Where you put in like, here's where I want to go. Here's where I'm starting. Here's the time. You hit generate and it says option 1, go here, take this, go to this bus, take this, it takes this long. Option 2, go that. This is exactly that, right? Except it's broken, the pieces of data are broken down very, right? You know how the data comes in like crazy, right? So we're not getting all this fancy stuff. We're getting a bus stop number, we're getting a bus stop name, and we also get the type, walk, ride, transfer, ride, walk. And each of these types have actually different pieces. So like, for example, when we get a segment that says type walk, we don't get a bus stop, right? There is no bus stop, or there is no bus, there's no route, because walk we don't walk on a bus, right? We walk from point A to point B. So there's no bus route. So there's no bus route number or bus route name. So you have to be careful when you're parsing this data, because walk, ride, and transfer have different properties. So you can't assume that there's always going to be a bus stop. or there's always going to be a bus route. The other thing is rapid transit has really different bus names, okay? They don't have specific names. So this is you're gonna have to do some logic to break this stuff out and print it out in a nice format. I'm using Font Awesome icons here. When it's walk, put the little guy. When it's ride, put the little bus. When it's transfer, put the little ticket. You're gonna have to do all those things. This project is not, it's not super hard like the weather one. It's really a bunch of little tiny things to manage. So it's different. It's different than the weather one. The weather one was like, we had a bunch of tiny things, but we had that one heavy problem in there. This one has no heavy problems. It's a bunch of little tiny things. And so it's going to be bigger, more code, but it's also, and like more to keep in your head, but it's also going to be a little bit easier, okay? So a couple things. One, I'll just refresh this. If someone doesn't enter a starting location or a destination location and clicks plan my trip, nothing happens. Fine, I don't care. Error, I don't care. Not important. If you want to take this and you want to go crazy on it and put in errors and do this and do that, fine, be my guest. I'm not expecting that. If someone types in a location that has nothing, fine. No error code at all. No locations found? Yeah, no, I'm not putting that. Okay, again, I feel like this is big enough. If someone types in a location, Manitoba, and a destination, sushi, and they don't select anything and they click plan my trip, again, no output. Fine, I don't care. Right? We're not checking for that stuff. It's probably an error, actually. No, it's not an error. What I do care for is I don't want things to just break. Okay, like I don't know, they should be fine. If you pick the same starting location and destination, no trip comes up, that is an error. You'll get an error from Winnipeg Transit. They'll say you can't give me the same starting location and ending location. You're already there, stupid. Right? They're going to tell you. Okay. So, other than that, this is the blue. Ride the blue for 14 minutes. Okay.
I have a question. Sorry, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
How many results should I output for a search?
They give you a maximum of 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so put out all of them, put out all that you can, but they max it out at 10. You're going to have to put a limit on that though. The default is 5. I want maximum, and maximum is 10, so put 10. The other thing is Winnipeg Transit gives you 3, 4, 5 different variations of the trip. Just pick the first one. Or pick whichever one you want. Or again, if you want to take this to the next level, pick them all and put them all out there and say, you can pick this one, like whatever, right? This app is so scaled down to from what it could be. So if you're looking for extra stuff to do this weekend, this is it. What else do I mention? I try to be pretty clear about everything. There's a couple little things. I give you a capitalize function here because these, I want you to capitalize these things. Walk for 3 minutes, ride, walk. So I give you the capitalize function to help you with that. So that way you don't have to write that yourself. There are lots of pieces, nothing too difficult, split into tiny pieces. Don't get stuck on one thing too long, okay? If you're not able to figure out how to do how to make your selector change, fine, save that to the end. Make it with whatever, the first one, right? Get the whole thing to work first, then go back and fix stuff up, okay? Don't get stuck too much on one thing, okay? There's a lot of tiny things. don't wait too long to start. It can be deceptively difficult. So you might look at this and say, should be able to pound that out in a day. Don't wait till Saturday. Okay, because things might go very bad. Functions are your friends. Just like you saw me today, build all this in functions. Build it I highly recommend you take that approach. Okay, it will help you understand your code better. Okay, so to go with this, on the other side, SD130, the tools and automation, you're doing exactly the same thing as you just did. It's just that this is a bigger assignment. I cut out browser sync, so no browser sync. So I'll actually show you that. No browser sync, but more commits. Because this is bigger, more commits, more branches. Okay, more commits, more branches, that's it. 12 commits, 3 branches. Ignore node modules. And apparently I say that twice. The points are correct. This one is incorrect. So one of these is wrong. I took that out on my local one, but I didn't take that out here. So take that out here. Add that in here. There we go. All right. So there you have it. When do you think this is due?
Monday.
No, Monday's too long. I want you to have a small break, okay? So having said that, small break means I'm gonna force you to finish earlier than that. So that way you are forced to take a break. Sunday at noon, okay? I don't want you working all weekend on it and then coming in on Monday and me blasting you with brand new stuff. So I'm gonna reduce the scope and force you to start working earlier. You have the rest of the day today, all day tomorrow, couple hours in the evening, right? That's what I'm expecting. I think about this in like 3 hours this afternoon, maybe an hour or 2 in the evening, right? An hour or 2 of homework. All day tomorrow, an hour or 2 of homework. So you're looking at like 12 hours and then maybe 2 hours on Saturday, couple hours on Sunday, and boom, you're done. Or maybe you're done by then, okay? And there you go. That's everything.
John, one question. In that plan, my trip, how many endpoints are we working on?
Here?
Yeah, are we dealing with just how many endpoints do we have here that we have to work?
Well, so you're gonna have to call geocoding once for this, geocoding a second time for this. So a couple of really interesting things. You have multiple forms here. These forms are submitted on KeyPress, okay? Submit, enter. Then Plan My Trip is just going to take the latitude and longitude on these data attributes and pass them into Winnipeg Transit. One endpoint, one Winnipeg Transit endpoint. Yeah, it's just one. It's trip Winnipeg Transit API. It's this one, Trip Planner, the Trip Planner endpoint. You just give it a latitude and a longitude, and it will give you, well, you could explore it, log in to explore. Yeah. JSON. Oh, yeah. You can, and it will give you 5 trips. Play around with it, see what you get back, see how to interpret the results. Under here, down here in noteworthy results, it tells you how to interpret the results. Like plan, each plan describes a different trip or path. Segment, a plan has more than one segment. Walk, ride, transfer, ride, walk, right? Like, so go over this, but this is the only endpoint you need. So just 2 endpoints, geocoding from Mapbox and this trip planning endpoint from Winnipeg Transit.
And have you provided in the HTML, I mean, we can see that icon, walking, bus icon. Have you provided that one in HTML?
You bet I have. Yeah. So the sample HTML looks like this, just to give you a sense of what I would give you. Trip planner, HTML. So download this. Okay, so you get this. So you get to see what it looks like for things to be selected. You can inspect, right? You can see the icons. You can see the data, like how I constructed this. So again, you don't need to construct it identical to me. At least your style, your CSS should be, but your data attributes and stuff, if you want to add data attributes to your elements, great. If you don't, if you have a better way, that's fine. But yeah, everything's here that you need to be successful. Yeah. You don't need to add any CSS.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I sometimes try out different names for the region or the destination. And is it possible that Wind Transit does not have any buses going to what I'm about to type in and I have to walk all the way? Is it possible that there's no data to fetch, like MD array?
I don't know.
Might be, you're not sure, okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't tested every location possible. Right. Is it possible that you try a location that's all walking or no buses or no bus service or or it's a weird time of day? Yeah, I don't know. But I don't expect you to handle that case. Like, so any edge cases or outliers, I don't expect you to have to handle it. If you do come up with something specific and you have a very specific question about, I tried this and this is what I got, what do I do? Yeah, we could deal with that individually, but I don't know.
Okay. Also, there's a wild rabbit outside my window. I'm on the first floor. Every time you speak, the rabbit comes in. Whenever I speak, it runs away.
Is that why I have so many rabbits outside?
I don't know. You're attracting some rabbits with your voice. I don't know why. It's weird.
I hate rabbits. They killed my trees this summer. So I'll get your voice and put it on a loop and put it outside on a speaker. All right, cool. Again, ask me questions as you come across them, clarifying questions. That's all part of the process, right? This is all part of the process. It's a bigger one, but it's also not crazy. So you should be pretty busy. Don't save it, just get it done, finish it, have the weekend to yourself. Okay. Anything else? All right, so there you go. I'll be online this afternoon. I'll connect. There's a couple of you who have already asked me to connect with you. I'll connect with you. Other than that, sorry, we'll talk tomorrow. I will hold class tomorrow morning at 8:45, just for questions, okay? Come if you want. You don't have to, but you might miss out on something useful, okay? So it's up to you. But I'll be here 8:45. See you then. Have a great night, okay?